Hey everyone, welcome to part 16 of this trophy and achievement guide for the original Final Fantasy VII. In this episode, we're going to be doing a lot of world cleanup. We're going to get a lot of good items, and it will culminate in us getting a gold chocobo, which is very important, and we're going to do it all without doing any racing whatsoever. It's kind of an interesting method to do that, so I'm glad that you're here. Let's get started with it. We're going to hop aboard the Highwind just outside of Wutai, and now we're going to fly over toward Midgar, because we want to go and see what we can do about getting back into the Slums area in Midgar. So we're just going to fly across the world over toward the eastern continent. Luckily for us, Midgar isn't that far away. It's located in the northwestern corner of that continent. So as we get close, make sure that you land in the green area, and then you have to run across the gray and black land to actually get into Midgar itself. Once you're here, there's going to be a man standing outside the gate. Let's go talk to him. That's funny, I dropped the key to this gate somewhere. Must have been on that excavation tour. Well, there's only one place that I know of where we can do some excavating, and that would be Bone Village. So we're going to head outside and we're going to run back over toward the Highwind. We'll jump aboard and then we're going to fly toward the southern portion of the northern continent, which is actually pretty close by. So go just a little bit toward the northwest, we can land right here, and now we're going to run inside. We just have to do a little excavating. So to do that, let's go talk to the man standing by the treasure chest. We're going to tell him to start digging, and now we're going to say that we want good treasure. Now we have to show him where to dig. We're going to go to the right side of the wall, and we're going to just nestle ourselves right in this little cubby here and then turn around. This is right where you want to be standing. We don't have to order a search. We can just say done, and then we can press square to ignite the bomb. Normally the guys would look in the direction, but I know this is exactly where we want to be standing. So what we're going to do now is to just say we want to dig right here, and then overnight they're going to excavate this area, and in the morning we'll be able to open the treasure chest and see what they dug up for us. And when we get the opportunity to do that, we'll see that we get none other than the key item, key to Sector 5. So that's exactly what we need to head back into Midgar. We'll leave Bone Village, hop aboard the Highwind once again, turn toward the southeast, and fly ourselves back over to the same spot outside of Midgar, where we can get off in the grassy area and then run around into Midgar itself. Now, I never really understood this, but we have the key for Sector 5, but the gate clearly says 07, making you believe that this is actually the Sector 7 gate. Doesn't matter, the key works anyway, and we're going to keep on going back into the light. And now we're outside of Aerith's church. Let's pop in and see what's inside. And lo and behold, you can see Aerith's, or at least her ghost or memory or something, tending to the flowers back there. But as soon as you approach it, it's going to disappear, and the children around here don't seem to have noticed anything. They'll mention that the flowers are pretty, and they just ask, where's the flower lady? So clearly they didn't see anything here. But I guess that's just a nice little thing for only our eyes. We're going to keep on going left out of the church, and then we're going to go all the way to Wall Market. What's interesting is that if you go and try to go to Aerith's house, you won't find Elmira or Marlene there. Kate Sith mentioned that he did take them away somewhere when he kidnapped them, but we don't really know where they went to. Keep that in mind for a little bit later. Now we're going to keep on going down through the section, working our way all the way around here. You can fight the monsters in here if you want to, but they'll give you almost no experience, so it's not really worth your time. We'll keep on running through the playground area all the way to the back, and then that will take us to the far right corner where we can now run around this little bend, and we'll be back inside of Wall Market. There's two things that we want to do here. We're going to start by running forward and going immediately into this building marked item, and we're going to go interact with this pink computer, and we'll get the premium heart. That is Tifa's ultimate weapon. So very easy to get that. You just have to return here and pick it up from that computer. Now we're going to run all the way to the back. We want to get back to the shop in the north corner here that has the pink machine gun sign over it. It's on the right side. We'll go in here, and now we want to go talk to the guy that we bought batteries from. Oh, so you're back. I got something good for you. Why don't you buy it? You probably just found it lying around somewhere, right? I'll admit that I found it, but you may never be able to get another one like it again. How about 129,000 gil for it? What kind of price is that? So this item is technically optional, but it makes some things coming up a whole lot easier. So I would recommend that you buy it even though it's pretty pricey. All you have to do is say, oh, all right, I'll buy it. And then you'll have a new item called the Sneak Glove. The Sneak Glove makes it significantly easier to steal items, and we do have to do a bit of stealing coming up. If you're running low on money, you can just sell off one of the all materias that you've mastered at this point. You should have a few of them. They sell for 1.4 million gil each. Now we do have to get up to 99,999,999 gil eventually, but we'll be working on that in the future. For right now, we can just sell one of these and basically all of our money problems are gone for the rest of the game. We just have to work to get all of that gil a little bit later on. And that is all that we have to do inside of Wall Market. We can just leave at this point. We got that Sneak Glove and we got Tifa's ultimate weapon, the Premium Heart. So that's good. Let's go on and leave the way that we came. Now we just have a long run back to outside of Midgar. On the way there, let me know down in the comments what your favorite hobby is besides video games. Mine is woodworking. I really enjoy creating things with my hands and building stuff. I just recently completed a project where my wife had been asking me to build some shelves for our bathroom, so I just installed those, but I've done things like bookcases and entryway cubbies for all the kids' things like their coats and their backpacks and everything. So it's just a fun thing for me to do. I think I get that from my grandpa. He was actually a carpenter for a profession. And so I think I come by that pretty naturally, but I also enjoy doing things like making these YouTube videos for you. So if you enjoy them, be sure to hit that like button as well, and also subscribe to stay up to date with the rest of the videos in this series. Well, after you finish commenting, we're going to head back outside of Midgar, and we're going to get ready to go through the next sections by having a look at our equipment. And starting off with that, we're going to see that Cloud is equipped with the Heaven's Cloud weapon. He also has the Imperial Guard and the ribbon to block all abnormal status. Tifa has the Power Soul, the Bolt Armlet, and the Curse Ring. And then Yuffie is going to have the Oritsuru, the Zeidrich, and the Sneak Glove that we just bought so that she has an increased stealing rate. As for Materia, Cloud has Enemy Skill, Double Cut, Hades, Magic Plus, All, and another All just to keep leveling them up. And then he has Elemental and Fire, Elemental and Lightning, Time and All on his armor. Tifa has the Long Range, Counter Attack, Cover, and Luck Plus materials on her weapon, and she's got Death Blow, Added Cut, Added Effect, and Odin on her armor. And finally, Yuffie has Steal, Enemy Skill, Restore, All, Manipulate, Chocobo Lure, All, and MP Absorb. So once you've got all of that lined up, let's go ahead and run around in this area because one of the enemies around here has the Matra Magic enemy skill, and we want to learn that for the second enemy skill materia that Yuffie has equipped. So keep running around here until you get into this battle. This enemy is called Custom Sweeper, and probably the best way to get it to actually use Matra Magic on you is to try to manipulate it. So I'm going to have Yuffie do that, and Tifa does counterattack here, doing absolutely massive damage to it. Luckily, it's dead now, and we don't have to worry about it attacking us anymore. But I manipulated the other one, and now I'm going to have it use Matra Magic against our whole team, and that's going to hit Yuffie, and then that will teach her Matra Magic. So that's one more enemy skill that we needed to make the second enemy skill materia perfected as well. After that fight, we're going to keep on going, and we want to get back into the high wind, and we're going to fly very nearby, only over to Kalm, which is located just a little bit toward the east. So let's fly over here, and now we can land, and we're going to go inside and get some new things here. Starting off, we're going to run forward, and we want to go into this house in the top corner here. Once we go inside, we can run to the back, and there's a spiral staircase that we can go up. Let's go all the way up it, and then we're going to get the treasure chest in the corner here. This is a Peacemaker. It's actually a new weapon for Vincent. And now you can see the sunlight coming through here. You can actually interact with this window, and you can pop out. This exact window actually makes an appearance in a later cutscene, so it does have some relevance to the overall story of Final Fantasy VII. Let's go ahead and get out of here. We'll run down the spiral staircase, and we're going to exit this building. Now what we want to do is to go over toward the bottom right corner, and we're going to go into this building. From here, we can run over and talk to the cupboard underneath the stairs to grab a free ether, and then we're going to go up the stairs, and there's an old man here that we want to talk to because there's something that we can give him and get from him. The world's changed a lot in the past few days. That huge meteor is covering up the sky and acting like it owned it. A lot of my friends have died. I'm going on a journey to pray for their souls. A map that was sunk along with the ship. Guidebook. A rose that blooms once every 1,000 years in the desert. Desert rose. A harp that soothes those who hear it. Earth harp. I wonder if there's anyone who will bring it to me. Let's talk to him again. Oh, it's Guidebook. Want to trade it for this underwater materia? How about it? Let's trade. Okay then, it's a done deal. He's going to walk over and he's going to grab the underwater materia from inside this drawer. It's underwater materia. Go on, it's yours. Let's pick it up, and that actually is useful for fighting one of the super bosses later on in the game. Let's go ahead and leave this building, and now what we're going to do is actually leave Kalm entirely, and we're going to get out into the open world map. From here, we're going to jump into the high wind once again, and now we're going to turn and we're going to fly ourselves over toward the islands in the northeast corner of the map. When you get over here, you'll see that one of the islands has a forest on it, and that's the one that we want to go to. So we have to land somewhere in the grass outside the forest, then run around in the forested area until you get into a fight with some goblins. Now these guys are important for two reasons. Number one, they give us something called a Zeio nut, which is useful for breeding a gold chocobo. That's something we'll be doing later. But also they have an enemy skill called Goblin Punch. Now it can be a little bit difficult to learn Goblin Punch if you have a character who has the cover materia on, because that person will keep trying to get in the way and block it. So what you can do is try to manipulate the goblin. It might take a couple goes, but eventually once you manipulate him, then you can actually have him cast Sleeple on the person. He just did it naturally here, but you could just have them cast Sleep onto the person who is blocking it. And now that we have a successfully manipulated goblin, we can choose to use Goblin Punch on the characters who have the enemy skill materias. So here we have Cloud getting it, and now we're going to turn that around and hit Yuffie with it as well. So both of our enemy skill materias are going to now have Goblin Punch. Goblin Punch costs 0 MP to cast, and it's a physical attack, but it does 8 times normal damage when you are the exact same level as the enemy that you're attacking. So here you can see the Goblin Punch does a lot of damage to the goblin because, of course, it's the same level, it's the same person, and now we just have to finish him off with Tifa. So once that's done, we got both of our enemy skills updated to have Goblin Punch, and as a reward, we also get the item called a Zeio Nut. So that's all good. Let's go ahead and keep on going from here. We're going to hop back aboard the High Wind, and now we're going to fly over toward Bone Village, where we were just a short while ago on the southern portion of that northern continent. There's a couple things that we want to get in this area. There's one enemy that will give us another type of nut that we need in order to breed chocobos, and we can update another enemy skill in this area. Let's start by running around here until we get into a fight with a particularly tough enemy. This is a Vlacordos. It has a lot of HP, so while you can defeat him and then get the drop of a Carob Nut, it is a lot faster just to send in Yuffie with that Sneak Glove to instantly steal a Carob Nut from him, and now we can just run away from the fight, and that's a whole lot faster than trying to defeat him and get the drop. Now there is a better place to find that Vlacordos. I'll show you in just a minute, but for right now I'm going to run around in this area and show you the other thing that we want to get. These guys are called Trick Play, and they're very similar to the moves that we fought outside of the Chocobo farm, and in fact they have this same level 4 suicide enemy skill that we can learn, so it's kind of fortunate that we can do that in the same area. We just have to stand around for a minute, let them use that on us, and then we can just finish them off and keep going. So that's one more enemy skill updated on our second enemy skill Materia. Now, as I mentioned before, the Vlacordos is a little bit rare in this area, so if you can't find them, then get on the high wind and you want to fly just a little bit out into the water. You'll see some islands over here. You can land on one of them like this one and run around, and it's much more likely that you'll find that Vlacordos in this area as opposed to just outside of Bone Village. Not sure why that is. The island has a different spawn rate for these guys. So now what we want to do is to once again steal that Carob Nut from him, but I want to show you what it looks like if you wanted to try to finish this guy off and actually defeat him, and the rewards that you get for doing so. This guy has 33,333 HP. It's level 33 and it has 333 MP. I guess whoever was programming this guy had a love of the number 3. But you can see that it does take quite a long time to defeat him, even with Tifa attacking. She can use that death blow double cut to do a lot of damage, about a third of his health every time that we attack, assuming that we hit with that death blow. Luckily, we can also get some counterattacks in thanks to the pairing of the cover materia and counterattack. So it does take a minute or so for you to actually defeat this enemy, and you don't even get a lot of experience or AP or gil for doing it either. Now that we have our 2 or preferably 3 Carob Nuts, we're going to get in the high wind and we're going to fly over toward the west. We want to go over to Wutai because there are 2 more enemy skills that we need to get updated. A new one for both of our enemy skills and an updated one for the one that does not have it yet. So once we get to Wutai, we're going to start heading toward the south, and we want to get toward the end of the continent where we can land on this patch of grass. And now we're going to run around in the grassy part first so that we can get the Magic Hammer enemy skill. One thing that you should probably do is to switch out the Sneak Glove for the Hypno Crown on Yuffie. Yuffie has the Manipulate Materia, and we want to manipulate one of these enemies. The rate is a little bit low, but if you had the Hypno Crown equipped, it would be 100% guaranteed that this would work. And you want to find these Razor Weeds and then manipulate one of them so that you can have it cast Magic Hammer onto whoever has the enemy skill that does not have Magic Hammer yet. In this case, it's going to be Yuffie. So we'll have Yuffie manipulate the enemy, cast Magic Hammer onto her, and if it hits, then all you have to do is to cast Magic Hammer onto another one of the enemies so that you can get your MP back from them. So here we have him manipulated. We're going to Magic Hammer Yuffie. Now this time it actually did miss, so I didn't lose any of the MP, but all we have to do now is to kill off the enemy, and then we're going to move on from here. Well, this is where I wised up and I decided that I should put on that Hypno Crown anyway, so let's go ahead and switch out the Sneak Glove for that Hypno Crown, and now we can have the 100% guaranteed manipulation for the next enemy. We're going to run down now into this sandy area along the beach, and it won't take long until we get into a fight with this guy. This is an Adamantimai, and it likes to start off the battle by casting Barrier on itself just to raise up its defense, but we're not so interested in that. We just want to manipulate it so that we can learn a new enemy skill, and that enemy skill is called Death Force. We have to cast it individually on both party members that have the enemy skill materia. If you happen to put both enemy skill materias onto the same person, you could actually learn Death Force on both enemy skill materias at the same time. But here I cast it on Yuffie, and now I'm going to cast it on Cloud so that we can both have it equipped. So what Death Force does is that it prevents you from instantly dying. This is very useful when you have things like the Curse Ring that has that death sentence counting down. If we didn't have added effect in Odin on Tifa's armor materia, we could just cast Death Force and then she would be protected against instantly dying. And now that we've learned Death Force, let's go and learn one of the trickier enemy skills. To do that, we're going to get on the high wind, and then we're going to fly it way over toward the Chocobo Ranch. You can either go way east or you can go west. You can loop around the world by getting to the edge of the world map, and then it will take you over to the other side of the world. So now we're on the far east side. We're just going to keep on going a little bit toward the west, and here's the Chocobo farm. We're going to fly over the swamp, and then what we want to do is to land over here by the Mithril mines. So we need to set ourselves up a little bit for this next fight to make it go well. I would highly recommend two things. Number one, take off counterattack, and number two, put both enemy skill materials onto the same person like Cloud. I didn't do that. If that's the case, then what you'll have to do is actually fight this battle probably 2 times unless you get pretty lucky. Make sure that you're all healed up and then save the game. And now once you're good to go, step out into the water and just wait for a few seconds until the giant snake living in the water comes over and hits you, and then you'll be put into a fight. This is the Midgar Zalem, and it has 4,000 HP. That's very important because we need to pay attention to how we attack him. One attack from Tifa and he's eliminated, and we don't want that. We have to get him to a point where he can cast Beta as an enemy skill so that we can learn it. I'll have Yuffie just do a normal attack, and now he's going to raise himself up in the air. That's good because when he's in this position, he can cast Beta. I'm going to cast question mark as an enemy skill. It'll do 344 damage, which is exactly the difference between Cloud's maximum and his current HP. Now I'm going to weaken him a little bit more. I'm just going to have Yuffie use Flamethrower, and that's going to get him down until he's about at 200 or so HP. Now he's going to look for a target to eliminate. Luckily he chose Yuffie and knocks her out of the fight, so we still have Tifa and Cloud. And Cloud has both enemy skill Materias on, so he's able to learn the Beta enemy skill very easily. Now everything that I use is probably going to kill him, so what I need to do is to manipulate Cloud's HP so that he's actually at full health. That way the next time I use question mark, it will do no damage at all. And that's a good thing because we want him to retaliate but not actually die here. So I'll use that same enemy skill one more time. It'll do 0 damage, but the Zalem thinks that I attacked him, so he's going to use Beta, and then I will be able to learn it. So get him to very low health, and then try to get him to attack you as a counterattack, and you'll be able to learn that enemy skill. If you have something like the Fire Ring equipped, you don't have to worry about taking any damage from that with Cloud, so it makes it pretty easy, and then you're able to just finish him off as soon as you learn the enemy skills on both Materias. So either have it on 2 different party members and then switch off if that person gets ejected from battle, or just put both enemy skills on the same character, and that way you can get it done at the same time, assuming that's the person who survives and doesn't get knocked out of the fight. Go back, change up your enemy skill Materias a little bit more, and now we're going to head into the Mithril Mines because we want to go and get the Flamethrower enemy skill from the Arc Dragon in the back corner here. So we'll run through the Mithril Mines all the way to the back, and then we just have to run around this area until we find the Arc Dragon. Once again, you can manipulate him so that you're able to actually get the Flamethrower to go on whoever, although sometimes he will just be able to cast it himself. But with the Hypno Crown equipped and the Manipulate Materia, you're able to take control of the Arc Dragon very quickly, and now we can cast Flamethrower on whoever we want to. In this case, I'm going to cast it on Cloud because he's got the enemy skill that does not have the Flamethrower ability already learned. So now he learned it, and now we can finish off the whole group of enemies. 1 Matra magic should be enough at this point in the game to eliminate all of the enemies in one go. Alright, time to head back to the Highwind, and as we go, there was one treasure chest that I pointed out in an earlier part way at the beginning of the game, but this time I'll actually go and get it. If we run to the bottom right corner, we can open up this treasure chest and get a mined source. Now we're just going to go back outside and get onto the Highwind so that we can go get another enemy skill updated. We just have to fly directly over this mountain range. We can land anywhere in this area and run around until you get into a battle with a monster that we fought before called the Zemzelet. We're going to learn White Wind from this guy. We already have it on one enemy skill, but we need to learn it on the other one as well. So what we need to do is to manipulate him thanks to our Hypno Crown. That's a 100% guaranteed chance of happening. So once he's manipulated, we just have to choose to use White Wind on our party, and then whoever has not yet learned enemy skill is going to learn it at this point. Then we just have to send Tifa in to finish the job, and then that will be over, and we'll have successfully learned White Wind now on both of our enemy skill Materias. After that fight, we're going to get onto the Highwind and we're going to fly west over the ocean until we get to the Costa del Sol area. Once we're there, we're going to land the Highwind anywhere on the grass, and then we're going to run around on the beachfront area, and then that will allow us to get into a fight with an enemy called Beach Plug, and we'll use him to learn the Big Guard enemy skill, something that we've been using and will continue to use significantly throughout the rest of the game. This is another enemy that you have to manipulate, so thanks to Hypno Crown we can do this perfectly, and then we're going to just use Big Guard on our entire party, and once we've learned that enemy skill we can have Tifa just attack the rest of them or use really any sort of magic that you want to end this very quickly. We have one more enemy skill to learn, so let's get on to the Highwind, and now we're going to fly toward the southern portion of the western continent. It's going to be a little bit south of the Gold Saucer area, and it's going to be in Gungaga. So once we land down here by the broken down the reactor, we're just going to run around in this area for a short time until we come across an enemy called Touch Me, that is going to be a frog. This is another one of those enemy skills where it's a lot easier to learn if you just manipulate the enemy first, so we'll do that, and now we'll have it cast Frog Song on Cloud. Cloud is the one who has the enemy skill Materia who still needs to learn Frog Song, and luckily for us, Cloud is wearing that ribbon, so he is completely immune to the sleep and the toad status effects that normally would happen from using Frog Song on him. Now we can just finish the fight with the limit break and we can move on from here. Alright, once this battle's wrapped up, we're going to move on to do something else. We're actually going to go and get Cid's ultimate weapon from inside of Rocket Town. So starting off here, we're going to leave the Gungaga area, we're going to then get back onto the Highwind, and we have to fly over to Rocket Town. To get there, we're going to fly toward the northwest. We have to go over the mountain ranges here, over Nibelheim, over Mount Nibel, and we can find Rocket Town right here. Now let's go inside, and we want to go and talk to the old man who looks at the rocket 3 different times. My precious rocket, it's gone. I know. No matter how much I look, the rocket's still gone. But I just can't stop it. Just call it an old man's folly, if you will. Sorry to get you into this. For me, it's a kind of hobby. But out of appreciation, let me give you this. Received a Venus Gospel. I wish you'd take care of it and use it. Alright, so we had to talk to him 3 times in order to get Venus Gospel, which is Cid's ultimate weapon. We're going to leave Rocket Town now, get back on the Highwind, and we're going to fly over to the Chocobo Ranch. This is where I'm going to show you how to get a gold Chocobo without doing any racing at all. Normally it's a very long process of having to go back and forth between the Chocobo Ranch and the Gold Saucer and do a bunch of racing and leveling them up and everything. No, we're not going to do any of that stuff. Instead, I'm going to show you how to manipulate the RNG of the game in order to do it properly and very quickly. So let's start by running over into the Chocobo farm, and we're going to go into the house on the left because that's where Chocobo Bill is. When we talk to him, he'll tell us that he's able to raise our Chocobos for us. All we have to do is to buy the stables to put them in. Every stable that we buy will cost 10,000 gil, and we need to buy all 6 of them in order for this to work. So this is going to cost you 60,000 gil, but because we sold an all materia a little while ago, we have more than enough money to cover all of this. So we're going to tell him to take care of my Chocobos, and this is where he tells us about the Chocobo stables and how they cost 10,000 gil to rent, and we're going to just go through the same dialogue 6 different times in order to purchase all 6 of those Chocobo stables. I really wish that there was a faster way to do this, but there's not. You have to do it 6 individual times. I'm just going to speed up the footage here just to get through this as quickly as possible, but it doesn't take too terribly long before you're able to purchase all 6 of those Chocobo stables, and once you have all 6 of them, then you want to leave and go over and go into the main barn area with the big yellow Chocobo painted onto it. Let's go over and we're going to talk to Choco Billy. We're going to buy a few items from him. I would recommend buying a Saraha nut. I don't buy it now, but I will buy it later. That's just a safety thing. We also want to buy 1 Mimic Green. We're going to purchase 70 Kraka Greens. And then we're also going to purchase just a handful of the normal Gaisal greens, and we can use those for catching Chocobos. So I'll just grab about 5 or so of these. It doesn't really matter. Ideally, you only need about 2 of them, but we will buy some more just in case something goes wrong. Let's head on out of the Chocobo farm, and we're going to be back out into the main world map. Now, to make this next part a little bit easier, I would recommend going into your items and then choosing to arrange them based on battle. And what that will do is raise up the greens toward the top of the list, so it'll be a lot easier to find them as we go through the fights. And then I think it's a good idea to go into your materia, remove the cover materia so that Tifa's not blocking for everyone. And then what we're going to do is to quickly save the game, and then we're going to move on from here. We already have Chocobo Lure equipped, so what we're going to do now is just to run around the track area until we get into a fight with a particular group of enemies that will allow us to learn Chocobuckle. We already did this on one enemy skill, and now we're going to learn it on the other enemy skill Materia. Once we get into a fight with 1 Chocobo and 2 of these leprechaun bird enemies, we're going to throw the Mimic Greens at the Chocobo. He's going to start eating it, and then whoever still needs to learn Chocobuckle, they are going to use level 4 Suicide on this group of enemies. The Chocobo is going to freak out and counterattack by using Chocobuckle against that person. So whoever needs to learn Chocobuckle has to be the one to cast level 4 Suicide after feeding it the Mimic Greens. And then he's going to run off. We just have to finish this fight. These enemies are pretty weak, so finish them off however you see fit, and we'll keep going from here. Alright, and that is the last enemy skill that we're going to be learning in this episode. Now what we want to do is to go catch 2 very particular Chocobos. The first of which is going to be found over in the Mideel area. So get on the high wind and we're going to fly over toward the south until we get right by this big forested area. Just to the west of it is going to be a bunch of Chocobo tracks. So let's get out of the high wind and run around here until we get into a fight with a particular group of enemies, and that will cause us to have a very special kind of Chocobo that we need for breeding purposes. And it's going to be a Chocobo with any 1 or 2 of these spiral enemies. No other formation will work. So just the spiral and the Chocobo. We'll throw some Gaisal greens over to the Chocobo, and now we just have to finish off the 1 enemy that's here. And once he's defeated, we'll have caught a Chocobo. We're immediately riding the Chocobo, and what we want to do is to get off it and then choose to send it back to the stables. It will take off running and go back automatically to the Chocobo farm. We're going to get back on the high wind, and now we're going to fly over toward the northern continent because we want to get over by the Icicle Inn area, and that way we can get another very particular Chocobo. So fly kind of over toward Bone Village, and then you want to keep going toward the northwest a little bit. You're going to see that there's a patch of green grass, and there's another one over here. We're going to go to the smaller one, and then we're going to run over toward the left, and that will get us over to these Chocobo tracks. We want to run around this area until we get into another particular fight. You want a fight that has the Chocobo with ideally 1, but maybe 2 of these white rabbit enemies called Jumping. And we're going to throw a Gaisal green over to the Chocobo, Chocobo so he can start eating, and then finish off the other enemy. If you get into a fight with anything else like wolves or anything, just run away because it's not the kind of Chocobo you want. You want the ones with the bunnies. So after that's done, we have both of the Chocobos that we need to start breeding. Let's go ahead and return back to the Chocobo farm. We can run with the Chocobo over to the high wind, and then once we get off, we're going to once again tell it to go back to the stables, and then we're going to fly our way over there with the high wind. Well, let's head toward the southeast. We basically want to go as far east as we can on that eastern continent, and that is going to be where the Chocobo farm is. So go past Midgar, go past Kalm, you'll keep flying toward the south, and you'll go past the swamp where the Midgar Zalem is, and we'll land over here by the Chocobo farm. Now what we want to do is to not go in, but we want to go as close as we possibly can to the Chocobo farm without actually going in. You basically want to have Cloud's hair in the little alleyway between the barn and the silo. So once you're in this position, you're going to save the game, and I would recommend that you make a save on a spot that you're not going to quickly override. So whether that's a new fresh save or just choose a different spot that you don't normally save to, that's good. That's just in case you need to come back and load here a little bit later on. And now that you've saved the game, we're going to actually exit out of the game entirely. That does not mean use the quit option. Do not do that. You want to actually close the whole game down and then reopen it. So on PS5, that means go back to the home screen. You're going to choose the switcher. You're going to close the game here, and then we're going to reload the game from here. So let's boot it back up, and then that's going to reset the RNG. And from here, what we want to do is to choose to continue. We'll choose that same save slot that we just saved it to, but as soon as you hit X to load in and choose that spot, what we're going to do is to hold the up button so that you will automatically begin moving, and ideally you'll get into the Chocobo farm without ever seeing the world map. And now that we're here, we're going to quickly run over and we're going to talk to Chocobilly, and we're going to choose the moving Chocobos option. We're going to see that we have two Chocobos. There's a great Chocobo. Let's go ahead and choose this one, and we're going to choose to put it in, and this is going to be a Chocobo female. So you have a great female. This is the one that we got over in Mideel. So we're going to delete the name and we're going to call it Great F. I just like to do this. It doesn't really matter what the name is, but I just do this for the sake of tracking it, and that way I don't make a mistake. So we have Great F, and now we're going to have our next Chocobo. We'll go ahead and talk to Chocobilly once more. We're going to choose the moving Chocobos option, and the other one is going to be our wonderful Chocobo. This one happens to be a male, and it's the one that we got for defeating the enemies over in the Icicle area. So let's go ahead and give this Chocobo male a name. We're going to call this one Wand M so that we can keep track of it, that it is our wonderful male Chocobo. Well, now that they've been properly named, what we want to do is make sure we know which order they're in. So in the bottom stable here, if you talk to this one, this is Great F. And if you go up to the top portion here, this should be Wand M. So now what we're going to do is to leave the Chocobo farm once again, and we're going to do the same trick of saving and resetting. So get as close as you can to the Chocobo farm without going into it. Make sure that Cloud's hair is right in that alleyway between the barn and the silo. We'll save the game this time to another save slot, so don't override the one you just did a moment ago. Choose a different one, doesn't really matter where. And then we're going to close the game out again and to reload it. And what we're going to do is to once again make sure that we're holding the up button as we're going into the game so that we will automatically move into the Chocobo farm. Now that we're back inside, we're going to go and talk to Chocobilly one more time. This time we're going to choose to feed the Chocobos, and we have to give a particular amount of food to one of the Chocobos. We're going to choose the cracker greens that we bought, and we're going to select to feed the Great F, the female Chocobo, and we're going to give it only one of the cracker greens. So that's easy enough, and now that it is fed, we are ready to start the breeding process. So let's go ahead and talk to Chocobilly one more time, and we're going to have him breed the Chocobos. So go down to mating Chocobos, and we're going to select them in a very particular order. We're going to go and select Great F on the bottom first, choose this one, and now we're going to go up and choose 1 to M. So once we have that, we're going to say go ahead, and now we're going to give them one of the Carob Nuts that we stole over by the Bone Village area. So let's go ahead and give them that, and now they're going to mate, and they're going to produce a certain Chocobo, and that is going to be a blue Chocobo. So here we got ourselves a new Chocobo. It's going to be a blue female one. If you've done everything with me up to this point, you should have this blue F Chocobo that we can name, and we're going to be good to go. So now what we need to do is we need to give these Chocobos a bit of a rest before they can breed again. So we're going to head on outside, and we need to get into a series of battles. So starting off, we're going to run over kind of outside of this Chocobo farm area. If you aren't in the same colored grass as where the Chocobo tracks are, then you won't get into a fight with other Chocobos, which makes this a little bit more complicated. So fight normal enemies, and what you want to do is to get into a series of 8 fights against random enemies. Once you win 8 fights, then we'll be able to breed the Chocobos one more time. So finish these enemies off however you want to. Matra magic is a very good way to take them all out very quickly. So once these enemies are eliminated, we're just going to get into this fight 7 more times for a total of 8 fights, and then we're going to head back to the Chocobo farm. Now that I've completed my 8 fights, I'm going to go back close to the Chocobo farm without actually going into it. We'll get lined up right outside of here, and then we're going to once again save the game to a different save slot, and then we have to close out the game entirely, reopen it, and then we're going to do the same trick where we load into the game holding up, and then we'll immediately run into the Chocobo farm. Once we're here, we're going to go into the barn area. We'll go and talk to Chocobilly, and we have to feed the Chocobos another time, but we have to, once again, do a very specific amount. We're going to choose to feed the cracker greens. You should have 69 of them at this point, and we're going to choose the blue female Chocobo to feed them all to. Unfortunately, you have to select them one by one, so you have to hit that up button a lot of times to get all the way up to 50. And once you get to that point, then say, yeah, I want to feed this many to the Chocobo. It's going to start speed eating, and within a few seconds, you'll have eaten all 50 of those cracker greens. And now we're able to mate them. So let's talk to Chocobilly again. We're going to choose the mate option, and then we're going to mate the Chocobos in a very specific way once again. So we're going to go down and we're going to mate the great female Chocobo on the bottom. And we're going to mate that one with the wonderful male Chocobo. The same pairing that we had before, but this time we have a different number of greens that we've given them, and we should get a different result. We're going to once again choose that Carob Nut, the thing that we stole from the enemy before, and now we're going to allow them to mate, and in a few seconds, we're going to get a green Chocobo that is of the male variety. So here you see we did get ourselves a new Chocobo. It's going to be a Chocobo male. Let's go ahead and name it Green M. And now we're going to continue on from here. Let's run outside, and we've got to do some more of those random battles out there. This time we're going to do 6 random battles. So run outside and keep fighting until you get 6 battles, and then we'll be good to go. And at this point, I just skip ahead to the end of that 6th fight. Remember to use Matra magic to make these go a whole lot faster. And then once that's done, we're going to go back to the Chocobo farm. Now at this point, I actually had to go and buy the Saraha nut. That's something that I told you that you should buy earlier. In some versions of the game, you want to use a Carob nut for this next breeding, which is why I told you to get 3 of them instead of 2. But you sometimes have to use the Saraha nut. So let's just go inside and purchase that one really quick. It doesn't screw up the RNG or anything to do it this way. We just got our 6 battles. Now we can go inside the Chocobo farm, buy that one Saraha nut that I didn't buy earlier, and now we're able to go back outside. And at this point is where we need to save the game once again and close it out. So we're outside again. Let's just line ourselves up right outside the Chocobo farm. We'll go ahead and save the game and then do that full closing the game and opening it one more time so that we can get inside the Chocobo farm as quickly as possible while resetting the RNG calculations going on behind the scenes. So let's go ahead and run straight inside of the Chocobo farm, holding up as we choose which save file to go into, and then that will take us into the Chocobo farm where we'll talk to Choco Billy. We have to feed the Chocobos again. This time we're going to once again choose the crack of greens, and now we're going to select which Chocobo we need to feed them to. Let's go over and feed them to the green male Chocobo, and we're going to feed exactly 5 greens to this Chocobo. Once that's done, we're going to be able to breed them, and this time we're going to choose to breed the 2 colorful Chocobos that we've bred. So let's go ahead and choose mating, and then we're going to select the blue female first. That one's on the bottom. And now we'll breed it with the green male Chocobo at the top. So once that's done, we'll say go ahead and we will select which nut we're going to use. Remember, sometimes you want to use the Saraha nut, sometimes you have to use the Carob nut. So we're set up either way at this point, and this time I did have to use the Saraha nut. I wasn't able to get the Carob nut to work in my version of the game, but some versions you have to use that one. So you might have to pick and choose. All you've got to do is reload that save from before if it didn't work for you. But if it worked correctly, then you'll get a black Chocobo female. So we're going to name this one Black F, and now we're going to select this as the name, and we're almost done with our Chocobo breeding. We just need to do one more, and that requires us to go outside and do a little bit more fighting. So back to the world map we go, and we're going to get into a fight with 7 different groups of enemies. By the way, you do want to be actually winning these fights. Don't just run away from them, actually finish them off, and using things like Matra magic definitely helps with that. So I skipped ahead unto the end of the 7th fight here, and now we're going to do the same trick that we did before, where we run back over to the Chocobo farm. We're going to get very close to it, and then we're going to choose to save the game, close the game, and then reload that game and come back into it. And when we reload it, we're of course going to be holding that up button while we select which game file to load, and then we're going to run straight into the Chocobo farm once again. Now this is our final time that we have to breed the Chocobos until we get our gold Chocobo. Let's choose to feed the Chocobos again, and we're going to select the crack of greens. And what we need to do is we're going to hit the left directional button to skip straight over to the black F Chocobo, and we're going to feed it exactly 6 greens at this point. So go ahead, feed the Chocobo, and now we are able to mate them successfully to get our gold Chocobo. What we want to do is to say we want to mate the Chocobos, and then we're going to select them in the following order. We're going to first select the black F Chocobo, who's going to be on the bottom right corner, and now we're going to go over and select the wonderful male Chocobo in the top left corner. So once you selected these Chocobos in this order, we'll tell them to go ahead and mate, and we're going to choose the Zeio nut that we got from those goblins a while ago. So choose this nut, and then we'll be all set to get our gold Chocobo. The reason that we made those individual save files is because if something got screwed up along the way, you can always go back and reload a previous version of the game. Now, luckily, this is pretty easy. It doesn't take too long to do, and you will see that if you follow the steps precisely, you get a gold Chocobo without having to do any racing whatsoever. So I'm just going to name this one Gold F because it is a gold female Chocobo, and we will be all set to go from here. So once that's done, we need to talk to Chocobilly one more time, and this time we're going to go down to the option called Riding Chocobos. And here we're going to select the one that we want. If we hit the left arrow, we'll skip directly to the gold female Chocobo. Let's select this one and then say giddy up. We'll automatically be outside riding our Chocobo. Now if we get off the Chocobo, it doesn't run away, it just stays right where we are. Let's get on the Chocobo again, and now we can get onto the high wind, loading the Chocobo up into the high wind, and we can take it wherever we want. We're going to fly to the upper right corner of the minimap to the islands as far north as what you can get to, and then what we need to do is land on any of these islands, and we're going to start riding our Chocobo straight across the ocean. There is going to be a small island called Round Island up in the upper right hand corner of the map. It's hidden, you can't see it on the map at all, but you just have to run over here. And once you get here, you can get off your Chocobo and then you can run into the nearby cave. Once you're inside the cave, there's a red crystal on the ground. Let's go interact with it. Over the course of many years, Mako energy crystallizes into Materia. We get the Knights of Round Materia as well as the Roundtable Destruction Trophy for getting the Knights of Round Materia. That is by far the most powerful summon in the game, and we will be using it to some extent against some of the later super bosses. So let's go ahead, run outside, we're going to save the game, and this is actually where we're going to end episode 16. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with the rest of the series. In the next part, we're going to continue our world tour going around and collecting things from other caves like this one that we can only get from the gold Chocobo, and there's a lot more good stuff to be done. So I'll see you soon for part 17. Until then, thanks for watching and have a good day.